Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Neil, and you never know what you're going to find here. But today I've got a very special project. Something that I know every single one of you have found yourself. And if you are a DIYer and have ever had to do any of your own work on your automobile. Today I have something that I'm sure you've all encountered, and that is a leaky radiator that you cannot find the leak. No matter how hard you try, you cannot find the leak. You see the water, it's everywhere. It's kind of like coming out of everywhere. You know it's coming from the radiator because it's in the front of your car. You've checked your hoses. You've checked, the petcock, the drain plug. You've checked your cap. You can't find any obvious leak, but there's water everywhere. So today, I'm going to show you what I did, and I have to say I think it was rather ingenious. So what we have here is a 2006 Chrysler Town & Country, real common car, and I'm not going to show you how to pull out the radiator because that is, there's dozens of videos on how to do that. And this doesn't really apply to this model car anyways, but what I found down here is, looking underneath the car, there would be water all along the front of the car, coolant. I believe that what was happening was hitting this thing here appears to be glued down. This is a wire harness. It appeared to be leaking here and running down here, going through these holes and coming out along the whole entire front of the car. I did seem to be more concentration on this side. Radiator cap was over here. Radiator hose was right here. Here's the radiator hose. And the petcock, the overflow, was just above these coolant lines here for the evaporator. These things were always wet, so I thought it was coming from the petcock. I replaced the petcock. That didn't fix it. So I started really trying to hunt to find where this leak was coming from. Couldn't find it. Just pulled the fan off. Pulled off the electric fan, and that took quite a bit of work. I had to take the part of the grill off, had to take the support bar off. So by the time I got that far, there was only a couple of bolts left to completely remove it. So I went ahead and pulled the whole thing out. And I got thinking, how am I going to find this thing, find a leak? I could have rented a pressure tester, and that probably, in this case, would not have helped me any, because I eventually found where the leak was coming from. Before I get to that, though, I want to tell you what I decided to do. Since I had already pulled this thing out, I got a little bit creative. So what I did was I created a couple, I took a radiator hose. Let me pull this out in the light so you can see it. I took the radiator hose, capped off this end with a little plug that I bought down at Ace Hardware. Now, I don't know if you're aware of Ace Hardware's thing, but they're not like the big box store. They have a lot of odd, peculiar things. So if you, something like this, go to Ace Hardware. That's where you're going to find it. So this is a 1 1/4 inch plug, which happens to be a 1 1/4 inch radiator hose. These things here are a real pain in the butt when they're down underneath the car. This is the lower radiator hose. Almost impossible to get to these things. So I went ahead and bought another clamp anyways, and I needed it to do this test, to hold this plug in, which I'm going to show you here. As a matter of fact, see if I can pull it out. No, I can't pull it out. And I also built this little thing. Now I'm going to show you in great detail how I built this. But I was able to plug off both of those. The radiator cap, which you can see is rated at 16 pounds. Can you see right? 16 pounds, 231 degrees, 16 pounds is the rating of this cap. So what I did is eventually was, once I got this thing set up the way I wanted, I pumped it full of air up to 16 pounds. You don't want to exceed that. For one thing, if you exceed it, it's probably your overflow is probably going to kick in and release the pressure. But you don't want to create, you're looking for a leak, you don't want to create a leak. Then you don't know, if you inflate it, if you pressurize it more than the rating of this cap, like say you block this off and you pressurize it to 20 psi, 30 psi, you could introduce a leak into this thing, and then you'll never know whether this thing was really bad or you just had a leak, a mineral buildup around your fitting where the input, the the input or the output of the radiator hose, and it could have been leaking from there. So you don't know. So you don't want to interject the problem. You just want to pressurize this enough to find a leak. And then throw it in the bathtub. When it's leaking fluid, which well, I'm gonna go ahead and show you. I've already tested this thing, so I know what the problem was. So here's my plug, my petcock, my drain plug. So this is the one that I replaced. Everything was wet here. I could also see, can you see these marks here on the side, like drip marks? It's been in the bathtub, so they're not kind of hard to see now. Actually, I think they're gone. So anyways, there were drip marks here. I couldn't really tell where the water's coming from. Someplace on this side. Once I put this in the bathtub, I had bubbles coming up from right here below this thing. The seam is letting go, and it was just bubbling like crazy. It was incredibly simple to find, incredibly simple. So let me show you how I built these devices here. Let me go get my tools and pull it off and disassemble it so I can show you how I made it. Okay, be right back. All right, let me show you what I got here, what I built. This was so good I had to make a video and share this because, like I said, we've all run into this problem before where we can't find a leak on a radiator. Anyway, so I went to Ace Hardware, as I told you, and I bought I bought several things here. I got 2 plugs. These plugs were $2.39 a piece. This Schrader valve here was $3. It's an 1/8" Schrader valve because it's got an 1/8" hole. I don't know what size this was, but I wound up drilling this out. I had to go with the drill that was actually larger than this because this is rubber. It's a hard rubber, so you can drill it. Drill a hole all the way through first, and then about halfway down with a larger drill than the diameter of this, larger than the OD. The reason being is because the hole, when you pull the drill out, the hole will shrink, and as you can see, you'll just have to do it slowly until you figure out which size drill works best for you. So anyways, 1/8" Schrader valve for inflating, for pressurizing your system. Just simple little valve, $3, $2.39 a piece. I bought an extra clamp because this is the kind of clamps that I have on the radiator hose, and although I really do prefer these kind of clamps, if they get in a position where you can't access and you can't get pliers on this, you're screwed, because these things they're frustrating. But if you can get them in a position where you can easily get the clamp on and off, then I prefer these. I know people think I'm nuts. The reason I don't prefer these so much is these tend to strip. They tend to strip right here between the gear and this. So anyways, I'll go with this type if I can. But anyway, so I bought an extra clamp. I needed it for this project, and when I'm done, I'm going to replace this clamp because it was really a bitch to get to. Okay, anyways, and then the most expensive piece that I bought was this. This is actually a 1 1/4 inch. I don't know why it says 1 1/2 or quarter, but anyways, Fernco. It is a plumbing. It was in a plumbing section. It is rubber, and it comes with 2 clamps on it. Very simple device. Just so happens to be the same ID as my radiator hose, and worked quite well. Let me show you another invention that I made. If you don't have one of these, this is probably one of the coolest things I ever built. This is just a 1/4 inch drive. I'm sorry. Turn this around. Kind of hard to see what I'm doing through the camera. So it's just a standard nut driver, 1/4 inch nut driver. On the back of this nut driver is a 1/4 inch receiver for placing a ratchet, so you can throw a ratchet on this. I bought myself a short little extension, a 1/4 inch extension, cut the end of it off, shaved it on a grinding wheel into a square, and once I got it to the right dimensions, I drove it down in here pretty hard, and I've had this tool for 20-30 years. It's a snap-on. This end is a 1/4 inch, this end is a 5/16. Why is this tool so amazing? Because when you're taking things apart, whether it's an appliance, automotive, whatever, once you get down below 10 mils, you don't see a lot of 8 mils and 9 mil in America. What you see is 1/4 inch or 5/16. These are deep sockets. The reason I go with the deep sockets is because I actually use them so much that it rounds off. I just stick it on the grinding wheel, take off a 1/16 of an inch, and this tool will last forever. One of the best things I ever created. I would suggest you go down, buy the parts, make one for yourself. Sits in my tool bag. I use it constantly. Anyways, okay, so take this 15/16, loosen, clamp, take my Schrader valve, place it in the hole which I have already drilled out. It will require a little persuasion, a pair of pliers. You don't have to drive it in all the way if you don't want to, because it's only going to be inflated to about 16 psi. That's where 15, 16, maybe 18 is where most of your caps, pressure caps, reside. Put it down there flush. So anyways, make sure that's good and tight. And then this piece down here slides naturally, slides upon your radiator like you saw on whichever end you want to, whichever input or output, whatever side you want to put it on. More than likely you will suspect which end of your radiator the leak is on. You'll probably have that kind of already in your mind. So I would put this on the other end. The reason being is when you get in the bathtub and you want to put a little more air pressure in it, you can access this because the other end will be in the water. And then this, of course, goes, I just take one of my radiator hoses. I like this device because I'm going to save this in my toolbox and keep it, and every time I see it I'll know what it is, and if I ever have to do this in the future, I got my tool right there. Okay, then tighten this down. Slide this in on whichever opening remains. And of course, get yourself a little fitting. Another thing that I didn't invent. I purchased this bad boy and made a little modification. Got this from Harbor Freight. So it comes with a gauge, comes with a gauge right there, a valve for turning it off and on, and problem is it's really a pain to try to refill it through that little Schrader valve right there, which is how you turn it off and on. It's not only is it difficult to fill that there, but you don't have a lot of, all you've got is a one of these on the end. Well, there's no flexibility whatsoever there. So anyways, cut the hose off, bought myself a female pneumatic adapter, and by the way, these come in 2 different flavors. Make sure you get the right one. I don't know what the difference is. You can figure it out. Put a clamp and take this into the bathroom with you and use it to fill up your radiator. I would suggest, and this is if you don't want to buy the kit, if you don't want to rent the kit from your automotive store. You can if you want, but if you were to rent the leak detector and kit from the automotive store, you still would not find this leak because it was coming from the bell, and it makes it just impossible to try to find. Anyways, clip that in there. Boom, system's ready to go. Oh yeah, and one other thing, when it comes to refilling your tank, just make yourself one of these. Take a male and a female, screw them together with a couple with a little bit of Teflon tape there, and you can refill this to the tank directly off your compressor. Save a lot of time refilling it. All right, now I will put the system together and we'll take it into the bathroom and we'll see how it works. Okay, see you in a minute. And now it's time to fill up the bathtub. I think cold water is just fine. Hot water is for people. Now it's time to put the radiator in. Make sure you leave access to your fill stop so you can add water leaks. You can add air pressure in case, well, eventually it will go down. All right, in this case, it's too wide to fit in the bathtub. Bummer. Well, this is an old, cheaper type of radiator, and more likely the plastic bells are where the leaks are. Chances that it's leaking in the field is almost nil. I'm almost certain it's a leak on this side. So I can fill the bathtub up and do one end at a time. That'll work just fine. Well, this method worked far better than I anticipated. I've already found the leak in just a matter of seconds. Try to get the light out of there. Can you see the bubbles coming up? Very slow leak. Oh, wow. The air comes out a lot faster than coolant would, so it makes it super easy to find. So that didn't take long at all. I found my leak. I know now that I truly do need another radiator. It's not a hose clamp. Too bad, because this radiator is really in pretty good condition. All right, well, I'll get myself a new radiator, and put it back in, and we'll go from there. I wanted to make sure that this thing was indeed leaking, so I put a little more pressure than what's stamped on the radiator cap, and so yeah, I went up about 20 psi. Yeah, it's definitely leaking. Like I said before, make sure you don't exceed the pressure on the cap unless you want to inject a leak into it that wasn't there. So that is definitely a leak. I have no doubt about it. Really good method. Be forewarned that this will make a serious mess out of your bathtub or shower, but then again, it's a bathtub shower, so easy to clean, and you can tell your wife or girlfriend that you can show her this part of the video. It cleans up very nice, it's very easy to clean, and she won't give you too much flack as long as you clean up your mess. You're a mechanic. Clean up your mess. We have to do that anyways, right? All right, that's it.